Shalom Lekulam. Welcome to Jerusalem on another beautiful, beautiful spring day. Now, those of you who follow me on Facebook and also keep up with the community post here on YouTube, which I actually really love. What do you guys think about that? I love that feature. But you probably noticed that I posted a photo of me with a beautiful 95-year-old Holocaust survivor named Rosalie Moskowitz. I had the honor of meeting Miss Rosalie yesterday on Yom HaShoah, which is Holocaust Remembrance Day here in Israel, during a ceremony at the school where my husband is the high school principal. Since my husband Devin helped organize the event, I got to speak with her both before and after she gave her presentation to the students. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in just a few minutes, but first, I am Callie Mitchell and welcome to my YouTube channel. Okay, so you may have noticed that the rest of the world celebrated Holocaust Remembrance Day back in January. So why exactly would Israel celebrate in May or sometimes April? It's a good question. International Holocaust Remembrance Day is honored on January 27th every year all across the globe. That date was selected because it's the anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. The reason Israel has a separate day is because at some point the culture decided that they wanted to be able to celebrate in a way that was a little less international and a little more Jewish. So in 1959, it was voted in by the Israeli Knesset to celebrate Yom HaShoah, the Holocaust Remembrance Day here in Israel, on the 27th of Nisan on the Hebrew calendar every year. And they chose this date because it coincides with the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. Historically, the first night of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising happened the evening of Passover. So obviously that doesn't work for a national holiday because it's a biblical holiday and one of the most important ones on the calendar. So they decided to place the date during the time frame that uprising was still occurring so that it would be between Passover and our Independence Day, which happens 8 days from Holocaust Remembrance Day here. It's one of my favorite days of the year because I think it's extremely important to honor all of those who survived and to honor the memory of all of those who perished in one of the greatest stains on human history. In Israel, the way that we typically will honor this day is that we have a ceremony the night before because, of course, on the Hebrew calendar, the new day always starts in the evening. So there's a ceremony at our Holocaust Museum, Yad Vashem. And then the next day at 10 a.m., there's always a siren that everyone in the entire country stands for. People exit their cars, they stand up at work. The whole nation acts as a living memorial for, I think it's about 2 minutes. Most years I will go to a busy place and I will film through the duration of the siren and post that on my Facebook so that those of you who live in other parts of the world can experience this with us because it's really moving. This year, of course, I had opportunity to hear Miss Rosalie speak, so I stood in an auditorium, so I did not film like I normally do. But I'm just going to show you right now last year's footage from the Shuk so you can get an idea of what it is to memorialize the Holocaust together here in Israel. Wasn't it amazing to see? I never make it through a siren without getting teary-eyed. It is so hard, especially this year, I think, because it's the same siren as when we run. So it's always just an emotional experience, and And thinking about 6 million Jewish people losing their lives because of just an irrational hate, I mean, just being able to remember it in community is just really impactful. Yeah, so I wanted to be really thoughtful about how to share about this experience, because this is her story, it's not mine, and I wasn't able to find it recorded on the internet anywhere. So I don't want to take something away from her or her family. So I thought maybe the best thing to do would be just to talk a little bit about what she went through and how it impacted me hearing it. And then maybe in the future I can connect with her family and do an interview with her, which would be really cool, right? Let's pray that happens. Here in Israel, our Holocaust Museum, Yad Vashem, which literally means hand and name, they have a program that allows for survivors of the Holocaust to share their story before tour groups and at schools and different events. Now, if your church group is coming, you can work with Yad Vashem to have the testimony of a Holocaust survivor as part of your itinerary. And at my husband Devin's school, they make these arrangements every year for a survivor to come and address the students. And one of the things that's really special about it is that you can engage with them. After they share their story, you can ask questions. And Miss Rosalie, she was just incredible. I couldn't get over her mental stamina and her ability to tell the story with such passion and honesty. We went in early. I went in with my 4-year-old Yaniv, and we went in early since my husband had helped arrange this event. And as soon as we walked in the door, her face lit up looking at Yaniv, and I was like, this is a lady who really loves children. So we were able to talk with her and her granddaughter and a great grandbaby for a few minutes before she got started. And then after her presentation, we spent some time talking with her as well. So she opened by telling us that the war began while she was a child, and she really honored her parents for the good job that they did in shielding the children from some of the more scary events and the stress of what was taking place. She said that she was number 3 of 10, and when she was 14, that's when the war had finally reached her city, and their family was taken in the train cars like cattle to a concentration camp. And she said this a few times, she said that she didn't remember she remembers getting on, but she didn't remember anything that happened on the train car. But what was really significant is that at some point after she got off, a man approached her and asked her age, and she said 14, and he said, when they ask your age, tell them that you're 17. So they all entered into a space, and she said there was, I liked how she made this description. She said there was a good-looking Nazi soldier at the front of the room, and he was directing people which way to go. And then she told us who that was, and it turns out that it was Dr. Joseph Mengele. And this really blew my mind, because I've talked to Holocaust survivors before and know quite a few, and children and grandchildren of Holocaust survivors, but I've never had anyone tell me that they actually interacted with Dr. Mengele. So this was one of those moments for me that I lost my breath. I literally, guys, I was really like, okay, you read about this in the history books. We know that Dr. Mengele was known as the angel of death, and that he performed experiments on the Jewish people, particularly twins. He was really fascinated with twins, but really horrific, inhumane experiments. And when she said that she was talking with him, I just kind of was like, wow, like he really was a real person that this person in front of me interacted with. I'm gonna cry. Okay, pause. Okay, pull myself together. All right, what was going on with Dr. Mengele is that he was in the front of the room, and as the people would approach him, she said that he would signal to them right or left with his hand, like this way or this way. And when they got to her family, and it was just their mother and the children, her father wasn't with them. When their family's turn came up, she said that he sent her sister to the right, and then he sent her mother and her siblings to the left. And then when it was her turn, he said, "How old are you?" And she said, "I'm 17," because this is the instruction that the unusual man gave her. And when she said she was 17, she said that she did not look 14, much less 17. She said she was very thin and not developed and looked very much younger than her own age, much less 17. But Dr. Mengele questioned her on whether or not she was telling the truth, and she held her story, so he sent her to the right with her sister. She said that was the last time that they saw her mother and her other siblings, and she and her sister were sent to a work camp, which she also sometimes referred to as a starvation camp. And as she told the story, she gave us a lot of details about what happened at the camp, how they were treated, what they were fed, what they were given for bathing. These are things I'm not going to go into, and hopefully at some point I can find her story for you all, or maybe contact her and do an interview like I said. But she told us that her sister really saved her life. She said that her sister was always crawling on the floor looking for crumbs, always on her feet, walking around looking for food that people had not eaten. And her sister's the first one in their group that saw the British coming for their liberation, and she went in and presented this to the group of women that they were staying with, and someone was like, "Oh, she lost her mind." So she was like, "No, it's true." So it was true, and they were able to get out. And once they got out, they found out that their mother and siblings had been sent to the gas chamber. They found their father in a hospital in Prague and reconnected with him, and then they all immigrated to the United States together, which is where she lived most of her life. And she talked through like what that experience was and how she was always looking for her mother and had a hard time accepting that her mother had actually died. And then she got married and moved to Brazil for a time, and she ended up in Israel because she had a teenage daughter who came here in the late 1960s after the 6-Day War and absolutely fell in love with Israel and said, "I'm not going home," and so the whole family moved to Israel. And now she has I think she had 5 children, she said, and all of them had 3 or 4 children of their own. And then she said she had so many great grandchildren that she didn't even count anymore. But she loved children, and one of the things that was amazing is that as she was talking about her family growth, she said, this is worth living for, like this is why we live. And she had this hope and this forward-looking heart and nature, because she knew that life moves forward, and that her children are here, and her grandchildren and her great-grandchildren now. She was just so hope-filled. It was just incredible. So after her presentation, she did a Q&A, and one of the things that she shared during that time that really was touching to me was that her one of her sisters that died, she said that she was much more worthy of living than she believed that she was, and she didn't understand why that sister would die and she would be one of 2 that remained alive. And that was something that she always kind of had to wrestle with and work through. But then when she had her family, she realized, well, maybe it wasn't just about me, maybe it was about everyone else. And as I was able to talk with her privately, one of the things that she really emphasized was that her sister really did save her. She said it to me 3 times. She said, "My sister really saved me," the other one that survived, So it was just really precious. She did an incredible job. I mean, she's 95 and she's like so mentally sharp. I did some reading and found out actually that Holocaust survivors globally, they have a better recovery here in Israel than they do in other parts of the world. And also, they have a higher life expectancy here in Israel than native-born Israelis. Isn't that amazing? And I just sat there in awe of that fact. And I thought the first one, I think that kind of makes sense, because if they came to Israel, part of what helped them in their recovery is that they were building something, right? Like they were really working to build the nation together. And I think having something productive to do is really I think that would be really healing, like bring a lot of hope and expectation. In fact, our national anthem, Hatikva, is called the Hope, right? That's part of it, is that the Jewish people came to Israel because they had a hope, right? But the fact that they have a longer lifespan than native-born Israelis was just, I thought that was just amazing. Do you guys think it's as amazing as I do? I was thinking about it kind of like through a spiritual lens, like maybe the Lord allows them to live longer, to live such full, healthy lives because He wants them to be able to tell their stories, right? He wants them to be able to pass this on. But when Rosalie was telling her testimony, one of the things that was really amazing about it to me is that it reminded me so much of Psalm 102, and I was able to show her this a little bit and talk to her about it, which was really a blessing. She seemed really encouraged by it. When I read Psalm 102, I really see it as a prophecy of the Holocaust and the formation of the state of Israel. I've never seen any scholarship on this, so I'm just going to put this idea out there for you all for your own discernment and possibly encouragement. And if you have seen scholarship on it, I would love to see some links, so you can put those in the comments or send them to me. But I'm going to read through this to you and just show you the goodness of the Lord, no matter what happens, that He really truly does work all things to the good of those who are called according to His purpose. And we know that the Jewish people and the Israel are called according to His purpose, right? So let's look at Psalm 102 together. It says, "Hear my prayer, O Lord. Let my cry come to you. Do not hide your face from me in the day of my distress. Incline your ear to me. Answer me speedily in the day when I call. For my days pass away like smoke, and my bones burn like a furnace. My heart is struck down like grass and has withered. I forget to eat my bread because of my loud groaning. My bones cling to my flesh. I'm like a desert owl of the wilderness, like an owl of the waste places. I lie awake. I am like a lonely sparrow on the housetop. All the day my enemies taunt me. Those who deride me use my name for a curse. For I eat ashes like bread and mingle tears with my drink. Because of your indignation and anger, for you have taken me up and thrown me down. My days are like an evening shadow. I wither away like grass." Doesn't that sound like the Holocaust to you? My days pass away like smoke, my bones burn like a furnace, right? We know what happened to these people, that they were gassed and cremated. My bones cling to my flesh. They were starved. All the days my enemies taunt me. Those who deride me use my name as a curse, right? Do you remember them wearing the yellow star that said Jude? Their name was a curse. And then it continues on. It says, "But you, O Lord, are enthroned forever. You are remembered throughout all generations. You will arise and have pity on Zion. It is the time to favor her. The appointed time has come. For your servants hold her stones dear and have pity on her dust. Nations will fear the name of the Lord, and all the kings of the earth will fear your glory. For the Lord builds up Zion. He appears in his glory. He regards the prayers of the destitute and does not despise their prayer." Now, what happened shortly after the Holocaust? The nation of Israel was born, right? The appointed time had come. For the Lord builds up Zion, and he did in 1948, just a few years after the Holocaust. There, boom, we have the nation of Israel. And then it continues on. "Let this be recorded for a generation to come, so that a people yet to be created may praise the Lord, that he looked down from his holy height. From heaven the Lord looked at the earth. to hear the groans of the prisoners, to set free those who were doomed to die, that they may declare in Zion the name of the Lord, and in Jerusalem his praise, when the peoples gather together and the kingdoms to worship the Lord. So he set the prisoners free so that they could praise the name of the Lord in Zion and in Jerusalem, right? I mean, I look at this and I see a clear picture of the Holocaust connected to the formation of the state of Israel. There's a few more verses that I'm not going to read, but I would encourage you all to go look at it for yourself, Psalm 102. And if you do have any scholarship on it, send it to me. I'm sorry I didn't go deep to look for myself, but I wanted this to be a little bit more of an informal video where I was just talking to you about an experience that was pretty incredible rather than doing a super in-depth teaching. So I hope this was a blessing to you, and I hope that you will pray for Rosalie and her children and her grandchildren and her great-grandchildren, that they would continue to praise the Lord here in Jerusalem. Again, if my channel is a blessing to you, make sure to like, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and share with a friend and ask them to subscribe too. And I will see you all in the next video.